YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the army that you all saw in my online battle yesterday. Apparently it's called the Death Star from what people tell me. It's a strategy from the tabletop version of the game, or at least they say there was something similar. I don't know if that means that my opponent derived it from that, but there was a long conversation in the comments about kind of some of the brilliancies of this army, and I kind of wanted... These are all going to be very situational, very idealized, and all this other stuff. So this isn't meant to be like conclusive or anything, but just to give you an idea, I want you all to get an appreciation for how much damage this army can tank before it dies. And this is the army right here. So it's von Karstein on a Barded Nightmare. It's a Banshee, and it's going to be a the Necromancer on a Nightmare, and then it's 4 Cryptors, the Vargeist, Skeleton Spears. And honestly, the Skeleton Spears and the Vargeist are completely optional. You can spend this money on another Necromancer or anything of the sort. You know, whatever you wanted to. White King, I mean, more infantry, another Cryptor, like you name it. You just throw in whatever you want. And honestly, that's probably what I would do. Let me go show you some just fun little test scenarios that I threw together with a friend of mine. Again, this isn't going to cover every situation, and it's not going to be perfect, but just watch how much hit points this thing can in combat against what I figured would be a decent counter army to this. It's a Bretonnian army with a lot of missiles just to deal damage from distance, and then 4 Grail Knights to deal a ton of magical damage. We got King Luan Liankur to, I don't know, just be there. And then we got 6 Spearmen, because why not? They're cheap, and Bretonnia can bring them. So basically, I've got the Death Star here, and all the other units, I just left the Spearmen and the Vargeist in the back, because whatever. And I'm going to idealize this in the sense that I'm just going to march up to his men and just let them charge me. So this is a best case scenario. This means that the Death Star player isn't even microing, they're not doing anything, they're not putting counterattacks, they're getting hit by massive amounts of magical damage and completely surrounded so that the leadership suffers the maximum penalty. So again, magic attacks on the Grail Knights, Chain Lightning came out. Basically, like I said, just best case scenario for the Bretonnians here. And check this out though, not a single unit of mine has actually been destroyed yet. They are definitely suffering, but the Invocation into Heck has actually kept most of my units fairly healthy. And I can use the abilities on von Karstein to make my men last longer and get more attacks and everything. So as you can see here, von Karstein's taking a lot of damage. There's more lightning coming in. Basically, he's just given this everything he can, the Bretonnian player, just dishing in all the magic damage that can possibly be dished. And watch how long it takes for the Death Star to crumble in this situation. Once the Necromancer dies, it definitely does make a difference, but between the Necromancer and von Karstein and their healing abilities, they can keep this army alive under just like absurd amounts of damage. And again, remember that the damage coming from the Grail Knights is it is magical damage, so it's going to be doing the most possible damage to the Wraiths. So I mean, just check this out. Just how long this thing can tank, and I mean, it tanks for a long time. And Luan Liankur is in here. Necromancer is finally going to kick the bucket after a long time, and so that starts to eat away at the Vampire army. And you can definitely tell without the Necromancer, the healing is slower, and finally these guys start to just kick the bucket. So that's how long the Death Star can last against this, again, very idealized Bretonnian scenario that we show you here, just like how long it can hold out against that stuff. Von Karstein and I think this one Cryptor ends up being the only thing left, and then I bring the Vargeist in here just for fun at the very end. Yeah, you could use these guys earlier, and it might make a difference. This was just, again, wanted to make this an extremely ideal scenario for Bretonnia, so that you could see what, if anything, and how quickly you could potentially kill this if you got a very, very good engagement with your Grail Knights. Alright, so this scenario wasn't actually meant to be anything serious, just more fun. Since this stuff was in a big blob, I was like, what would happen if you got hit by a spam of gyro bombers? Would it actually do anything? So again, this one wasn't like super serious, just like, why not? Just because we can. So you're gonna see the gyro bombers drop absolutely everything on my Death Star. And let's see if it kills a single unit. So all the bombs have been dropped, and not a single unit of my men are dead. Gyro bombers below. Alright, so welcome to the semicircle of grudges. hosted by your local dwarf clan. This is, again, just another stupid one, but there is actually a point to prove here. So yes, this is completely unfeasible in every sense of the word unfeasible, but this was just something I wanted to do to show you again. This is just how much damage this setup can absorb before it starts to lose men. So I never expect something like this to happen on the battlefield, but I just, again, want to show you how much damage. These flame cannons are putting out an absurd amount of damage, like absolutely absurd. And it gets a bonus versus infantry. Now, I mean, these guys list as infantry, these guys list as infantry. I would assume that it's going to be fairly damaging. There's going to be, I don't know about armor piercing or anything. Let's see. No, it's weak against armor, and my guys don't have armor, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, check it out. This is just how much flame cannon it takes to break the hit points of these guys when I'm using the and in all these scenarios, I've been using the overcast of the invocation of Nehek just to keep my guys alive for as long as possible. And so I'm just trying to demonstrate to you just how much damage you can shrug off with this type of army, and it is truly incredible. No matter what kind of counter you're up against, just how much damage this stuff can shrug off. So you can see there, I mean, just flame cannons in a perfect position, just had to unload volley after volley after volley, and I've still got guys alive over here. Necromancer's still alive, Von Karstein's still alive. Well, I think the Necromancer just ate it, bought the farm. But anyway, I have one serious test left. This one was meant to be slightly more serious in the sense that I have an Empire army with a Bright Wizard, Light Wizard, 4 Witch Hunters, some good solid Greatsword infantry, lots of spears. Now, we did not bring Demigryph Knights, which we probably should have, but again, this was just more to see whether or not these specialized character-killing heroes had a chance of killing Von Karstein and the Necromancer here. So I'm, of course, going to be using the Invocation of Nehek to heal my guys. The great swords and the spears will do absolutely nothing in this battle. They cannot touch my units here. They just literally cannot do enough damage to overcome the Invocation of Nehek. Not when it's overcast. Now, when it is overcast, it takes 10 magic, but it heals all the units in this blob, and it gives them a significant amount of healing. And it lasts for like 20 seconds. It heals them for like 20 seconds straight. And between the Necromancer and Von Karstein, you can lay it down probably 3, maybe 4 times over the course of the battle. And it replenishes a considerable amount of health each time it's done. Plus, they have passive healing abilities on each of them. And right now, again, just keep in mind that he's using Accusation on me from these Witch Hunters, and my opponent is like cycling through the Witch Hunters in order to try and reduce the amount of cooldown time, and look how long it's taking him to kill the Necromancer still, just because of the healing. So Accusation comes on again, and again, I just want you all to see how long and how difficult it can be to kill the Necromancer. Now, he definitely should have put, this was just a friend of mine from work who was doing this with me. He forgot to put these guys on a Pegasus, but still, Shim's Burning Gaze for the finish there on the Necromancer. Now this army will start to fall apart, but again, interesting. You can see there's 5 minutes left in this replay. 5 minutes left. So watch. Again, not ideal because the wizard should have been on a Pegasus, but he continues to use Accuse. My guys continue to have all the heal, and Accuse takes a long time to cool down. So at this point, when the cooldown comes on, it's like almost a minute and a half before it can be used again. And his infantry just kind of slowly gets chewed up quite a lot by mine, and he is shooting his own guys in the back with Shim's Burning Cheese. But I told him to on purpose so that he could try and kill Von Karstein quicker. And I'm using the Invocation of Nehek to keep Von Karstein alive, and you can see that he did stay alive for quite some time. So what happens when Von Karstein is dead, the Necromancer's dead? Well, the Banshee still props up because it has the Encourage ability. It's still helping my units not completely crumble. And so you can see my guys are still going to hold out here for a long time, and I think that eventually we get some spells down on the Banshee, as well as maybe an Accuse. I'll leave the mouse cursor over the Banshee so you all can see. I don't remember exactly, but again, just to give you an idea, this army is actually, it can tank a ludicrous number of hits from enemies. So you can see that Karl Franz, everybody come in. I bring the Vargeist in just to be a pest at this point. It was too late, but I was like, I'll bring him in and just see how much damage we can do. And this battle actually gets like fairly close after all this. After just standing there and taking all the damage from his Witch Hunters and his Wizards and everything else, basically, I still managed to rout most of his troops here. and my skeleton spears finally show up. They were way back in the back. Like I said, obviously no one would just leave them back in the back. I'm idealizing the test. Eventually my guys are they're just gonna pop and rout here because they're too damaged, and the Shim's Burning Gaze can do a lot of damage magically. So the Empire picks that one up, of course. And again, but still a very idealized scenario. Now remember, I just basically ran right into my opponent's army every time, just ran into it, and was still able to do ludicrous amounts of damage to both the Bretonnian army and to the Empire army here. Now, I'm sure that there's other ideas you all could try now, but I did, in a separate test that I forgot to record, I tested the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So I got a bunch of Demigryph Knights with halberds and a couple without, and I had them charged into this Death Star formation and used the Flaming Sword of Ruin. Nothing. It did not do anything. The Demigryph Knights all died. And I was assuming that and that was using the Flaming Sword of Ruin like over and over and over again, as much as you can to get as much magical damage as you can. It didn't do anything. I don't know if it actually makes your guys impart magical damage. I'm kind of questioning that. If you all know whether or not it does, I would appreciate that. If it does, it does, and it still didn't work well. If it doesn't, then I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Now, there are spells and magical damage, definitely, like the chain lightning you saw and the other stuff, can definitely rack up some damage against this blob, but don't underestimate this Death Star blob from the vampires. It's dangerous. And in the hands of someone who can micro well, and you know, obviously they're not just going to run straight into your army. They're going to move around and be pesty, and it can be very dangerous. So just because you see someone blobbed up, don't underestimate this thing. It may not be as easy to kill as you think. Hope you all enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm still just flabbergasted from that battle where I played it. It was pretty clever. It was really clever. And I used the word cheese to describe it in my last video, and I think a lot of you took me the wrong way. And some of you were like, well, look at Air. He just can't man up and admit, oh, he lost. Yeah, that's right. You can tell he hates. I don't care that I lose. I lose a ton of battles, and I've showed you all me losing battles. If I cared about losing battles, why would I post it on the internet for everybody to see? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. So I get it. You all don't want me to use the word cheese to describe this because someone actually took some time to develop that, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I won't use the word cheese to describe it. It was clever. It really was, and I meant that in the last video. If I came off differently, I apologize. And my opponent left a comment in the comments saying that he understood what I was getting at, and so I appreciate that. But yeah, definitely nothing ill meant towards my opponent. This was very clever. It was a very clever, thought-up army, and I like seeing stuff like this. Tell me what you all think in the comments. HeirofCarthage signing out.